A Lit in 10 discussion with Lisa M. Kendrick. The Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. Feudalism came to England in 1066 with William the Conqueror. Issues between the nobility and the Catholic Church began to be public with the murder of an archbishop, Thomas A. Becket, in 1170. In 1215, King John was forced by nobles to sign the Magna Carta, and the first parliament was established in 1295. By the late 1300s, when Chaucer was writing, the Renaissance had started, and the bubonic plague was raging. In the time of Beowulf, one can see the transition from paganism to Christianity, and there were still issues with religion over 800 years later. There were two systems in England in the 14th century. One was the secular, non-religious order of feudalism, which was based on a classist system of aristocratic landowners. The second was the hierarchy of the Catholic Church. All social hierarchy was determined only by these two factious and historically corrupt systems. Geoffrey Chaucer is so renowned because he captured a detailed and interesting view of 14th century England. Living in a middle-class family, which was barely in existence at the time, and working for the government put him in a position to know and observe all walks of life. The Canterbury Tales is considered the premier representation of medieval society and was the first secular work printed by the printing press in the 15th century. The Canterbury Tales is written as a frame story, which has been a popular format since then. A frame story is basically a story within a story. A present-time story is used to pull together a series of flashbacks or a series of tales into one piece. The frame here is that a diverse group of religiously inspired citizens are making a spring pilgrimage from London to the shrine of Thomas A. Becket at Canterbury. Chaucer uses the prologue to do two things: set up the frame story and to provide direct characterization, which is directly stating character traits, and indirect characterization, where the author shows character traits via speech, thoughts, and actions of his characters. The pilgrims meet at the Tabard Inn in Southwark and decide to hold a storytelling competition to pass the time during their journey to Canterbury. The prologue shows readers the two halves of society, secular and religious, and provides generalizations about people who went on pilgrimage and highlights those stereotypes as either positive or negative. There was a small middle class and groups like the knights who all aspired to honorable lives, but the feudal and religious systems of England in the 14th century were notoriously corrupt. It was only something much worse, the bubonic plague, that freed most of the population. One of the pilgrims with a clearly archetypal tale is the pardoner. A pardoner was a church official who would issue penance for sins. He basically sold written official dispensations from the Pope, a promise of forgiveness for sins and a place in heaven for earthly goods and services. Chaucer describes the pardoner as physically and morally repugnant, a man who has metaphorically traded his church office for greed. Despite being greedy himself, the pardoner's tale is all about greed. He claims it doesn't matter that he doesn't live by what he preaches because he's just that good. In the tale, three men, devastated by the plague raging around them, seek to find and kill death. They find death by murdering each other over a stash of gold shown to them by the personification of death. The wife of Bath is considered one of Chaucer's most charismatic characters. She is an independent matron, having survived 5 husbands, runs her own cloth shop, is known as a devoted churchgoer, is a colorful dresser, is sexually free, and always speaks her mind. Her character shows us the relative freedom women had in the Middle Ages, which they had lost in England by the 17th century. The wife of Bath's tale is, predictably, about the power of women. With lots of mythological allusion and philosophical discussion against classism and wealth thrown in, the wife tells the story of a knight who rapes a young woman and is then charged by the fictitious Queen Guinevere with discovering what women want on pain of his death. He doesn't really learn his lesson, but his answer that women want independence saves his neck. Overall, each tale Chaucer completed provides insight into the lives of average citizens 700 years ago. Thanks for the journey. That was this lecture video. Check out the other videos in my Lit in 10 and Top Down series.